First of all, I would like to thank the colleague from the Western Galilee College for the invitation and for all organization. As is the time for lunch, I'll speak for the use of money. Maybe it brings some interest now, how we can optimize the use of them. I'll speak about a system that is called the input-output system, which is used in many cases to analyze the optimization of the money spent, and especially from the government, for the policymakers, especially when we speak about the crises like those that we are having during these years. I'll take even the case of Albania here, because we had, before the COVID-19, we have even two earthquakes in Albania, one in September and one in November, and in February 2020 it starts the COVID, and after that we have the Russian-Ukrainian conflicts, which means that we are approximately 4 years in a situation of having shocks, negative shocks in the supply side. This brings us to a very difficulties in the use of the public money, because it brings a big impact when it comes to the public budget. Increase the inequality a lot, because in general, mostly the shocks in the supply side shocks the poor area of people. And of course, many more people go to the lower level of income, so to the poorest area. In this situation, the governments has to take some concrete steps regarding the revision of the budget or increasing expenses for specific sectors, such as the social protection sector. But it is very important to analyze which of this sector or which of the components have the biggest impact in the economy. So, okay, we have only a lump sum of money. How to use those in a better way to optimize the effect in the society, in the economy, in employment, and so on. And regarding to that, one of the main models that is used is the input-output framework. I'll show a bit regarding this system. It is based on supply and use table, and it's very important to mention that this system, because in generally as economists we take the data as they are, but we don't see how those are produced. The same comes even when we speak about the GDP, the gross domestic production. We take that as it is, and we do the analyze, we use it as in many part of indicators in the development indicators in generally, but we don't see how it is produced. It is very important to analyze how it is done in three approaches, which is the production approach, expenditure approach, and income approach, and how it becomes in the same value, because theoretically it's impossible to have the same value with three different approaches. And especially when we speak even for non-observed economy, which is a big part in some countries, and when we compare these approaches, the production side, the expenditure side, the income side, we see that there are disbalances in many cases. So it is very important to analyze the effect as much more detailed in the product level. Let's take an example, and it will give you a big picture of the situation. Think about the expenditures that we do. If you go, because one of the approaches is expenditure one, the household expenditures, if you go to the households and you ask the lady of the house, how many money have you spent in cosmetics, in bags, in dresses? If the husband is there, she will say, no, not too much, it's nothing. If you go and ask the husband, how many beers have you drink today? He will say, one or two, it's not too much. But this is non-observed part here, because they didn't say everything. But if you go to the import side, if you go to the production side, you'll see that it's not like 2 bags in the economy, but there are 10. So 8 are not saved here. There are produced 10 beers, not 2, and things like that. So this system allows you to do the analyze in a very detailed level of products. As much detailed as you go, and here the nomenclature is a CPA that is used, which is a 6-digit nomenclature. In most of the countries it's used like that. As much detailed as it is, as much allowed you to do the flow of the product in the economy. Where it is produced, it's imported, and where it is used, in household, in government, or it has been exported. And from the other side, even the value added, where it goes, the money, after we had the production, after we have the consumption, where go the value added of the economy. And having this system, we are able to produce the whole value of the economy and to come up with one single value of GDP that we call gross domestic production, which is very used after that for other analysis. And regarding to this one, we use this system that is called supply use to go to the input output, which allowed us to produce the matrix of the all for each activity, which are the inputs, which is the ratio of each input. Let me take another example here. We have now the crisis of energy. And it's very interesting the fact that I'm taking the case of Albania, but I think that in many countries it happens like that because it's a chain effect that happens in these cases. It's just changed, let's say, 10% the price of oil in Albania, and you see that all products that are in the market have been increased with 20, 30, 40%, which doesn't make sense at all. And if you go in this structure, you see that producing bread, the oil has impact only 5%. How it's possible that 10% of the 5% goes 40%? It's impossible from the economic point of view. So, going back to this one, the policymakers, especially when even in our case we have even some specific that are called technical groups which decide even the price in the period of inflation, they say that the price has to be like 10% increased, not more. But they don't use this kind of analysis, which is the optimum that the economy can afford. So, having this input-output system, we are able to do all this kind of analysis policymakers. And regarding to that, there are three, let's say, effects or multiplier effects that this brings, which is direct impact, indirect impact, and inductive impact. Which means that if we spend or we have an increase with 1%, how it will be the direct impact in the sector, in the respective sector, how it would be impact in the whole economy as indirect impact, I mean in the other sectors, and inductive impact, which is based on the periods that comes. So the people takes the wages, they spend somewhere for the consumption, so it has a chain effect year by year, which in general is considered 2 to 5 years. And what is most usually, there are three types of multipliers: output multiplier, value-added multiplier, and employment multiplier. So when a government do some changes in the budget, do some investments, do some expenditures, they have to take in consideration which of them brings more money in the economy, which of them have more employment. And related to that, I'll take two examples. One is related with the impact of the budget restriction during the period of COVID in Albania. As I mentioned, before the COVID, we had even the earthquake, which means that most of the money, the reserve part of the money was reduced, which found the economy in a very difficult situation regarding the budget situation. They had an increase, but they did even a distribution. They changed the distribution of the money in the economy. They took some part of the money from the education and they put to the COVID. They took some money from the health and they put to the COVID. They took from infrastructure and they put in the COVID. They did this, okay. But what happened with those changes? And here there are the multipliers that I have shown to you. The money are in million lek. It's not a problem, that one. But the change in the multipliers. You see, the change in the output before and after the distribution of the budget, it was, at first it was 1.534, and after that it was 1.538, which means, okay, it makes sense from the aspect of output because it has a bigger multiplier effect. But when you see from the side of value added, which is the part of GDP, which is the most important one, you see that the distribution of money, it wasn't done in the right way because the multiplier effect was lower than it was before. So this is very important to be done from the government policymakers. Where do I have to send the money? from which sector do I have to take the money. Otherwise, I'll have negative impacts in the economy. This is one. Another one that I've done is related, so these are part of two papers that I have, two researches that I've done separately, but I'm presenting here because this system can be used for all types of analysis, even in environmental economy, even in gender aspects. So it's very, very useful to see how we can impact the economy by doing changes in the percentages or even in the values. Another case that I'm showing here is related with one of the groups, because as I mentioned before, in the period of crisis, one of the main problems is that a considerable part of the poorest people, they go even more poor. So it's very important to take considerable measures how not to let them to go in that situation. And for this one, here is the expenditures that are done for social protection. It's a bit technical because from COFOG that are done the expenditures in the government, we have to go to the activity economy that is called NACE activities, so the classification. And first of all, I did the distribution of all economy budget in these respective activity economies. And after that, I summed up in three economy activity, which is public administration, education, and health. So these are the three main economic activities related with public expenditures. And it comes with interest because, again, here are the multipliers, and you see which is the impact that brings in each sector the expenditure of the government. And it makes some good examples where the money of the government has to go, because it's only a sum of money, the government doesn't have too much money, but where to send those money to have the biggest impact. This is very, very important in this case. And here are the multipliers in value added, output, employment, and you see that which of the sectors has the highest multiplier for each of the components. And if you see the compensation of employment is very low is in the residual care activities. So it's very low productive in the employment category. Why it's so important? As I mentioned, the budget is fixed, the budget is small. How to optimize the use of it? This is the main use of this system. And I mentioned here only two aspects. So one was related with the social care, the other one was related with the budget restriction, but it can be used for each kind of aspects, even in tourism, even in energy. The benefit of this one is to see how much we can benefit from the money that we spend. I try to be as short as possible, to respect time. Thank you.